Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Broken Worship Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Mitchell. I hope that everyone had a fun and safe 4th of July. I always love sitting outside and watching fireworks. When me and Debbie bought our house, which is in city limits, I was afraid that we wouldn't be able to see any fireworks. But thankfully, both 4th of Julys that we have been at the house, we have been able to see fireworks. This year, we actually bought some cool and small fireworks, which was fun, and we also had a bonfire. On July 3rd, we went to go visit my family and hang out with them at Lake Okoboji, which was crazy busy. It was challenging finding a place to park to find my family. Also, the restaurant we went to, it took an hour to be seated and then at least another hour to get our food. To top off the craziness of the day, it took us a half hour to try to find my car. We could have swore it was lost, and that was super scary. We had fun, but boy oh boy was that an experience and definitely some new memories. Debbie and I always say that we are weeknight people and not weekend people. Whether that be going out to eat, going to a movie, hanging out at a bar, or really anything extracurricular, because everyone wants to do those things on the weekends, which produces crowds. And for us, it's so much more fun and so much more chill to not be in the crowds and be able to enjoy ourselves in a quiet and chill environment. Maybe we are lame, but if so, then I like being lame. So I'm sure a lot of you, as the Broken Worship Podcast listeners, are wondering, I am so excited to say that Debbie and myself had our big day on June 23rd. We had our commitment ceremony dedicating our relationship to God and being spiritually united in front of God and friends and family. Everything went amazing. Debbie looked very beautiful in her dress, and I didn't look half bad in my suit either. Of course, there were some stressful times in the final preparations, and we were worried that our outdoor tent was going to blow away in the wind from being outside overnight. Thursday night into Friday morning was windy, and it actually even rained in the morning of our big day, which definitely had us worried. But thank God everything cleared up and it was a beautiful day. We figured out a lot at our rehearsal on Thursday, which I am so glad that we did a rehearsal. My friend Eric led the ceremony, and he did such a great job making sure we understood how things were supposed to go and providing input to help things go smoothly. My buddy Taylor was in charge of music and being the DJ, and he did a great job despite the fact that I was really bad at assuming he knew what was going on. I feel bad that I really was bad at communicating with Taylor, but Taylor pulled it off and did amazing. Our friend Big Mike did an amazing job walking Debbie down the aisle. He was definitely anxious about doing it, but he did awesome. My mom did an awesome job with the food, and my dad did an awesome job with organizing everything being set up. My bro Alex and his assistant, which is his girlfriend Delana, did an awesome job capturing photos and videos, and I am super excited for them. There was a great turnout and everyone enjoyed themselves. At every family gathering, there is a chance for drama, but thankfully there was no drama, and like I said, everyone enjoyed themselves. I was able to surprise Debbie with a poem that I wrote during her for our vows, which she loved very much, and she did a great job with her vows. It was such an amazing and beautiful day, and I feel so blessed to share my life with the love of my life, Debbie. We also had a great but busy honeymoon week. So our cat Smudge has diabetes, and we have to give him insulin 2 times a day, which makes it hard for us to travel. So we had a staycation honeymoon. We did fun things not far from home that we don't have time very often to do with our crazy busy lives. On the Monday after our special day, we had to go to Sioux Falls to return a rented speaker system for the ceremony. We went to Hoo Ha and got way too full. We went to the new Transformers movie, which we both liked. I wouldn't say it was amazing, but it was a good storyline, good characters, and an overall good movie. Then we ended up having to go grocery shopping at Walmart. On Tuesday, we went to our local bar to eat, have some drinks, and play pool, which is one of our all-time favorite hangout stuff to do. It was really awesome. I also discovered that night that a new drink that Debbie started to like. It's tough finding things that Debbie likes to drink because she isn't a beer gal, and they were sold out of the margarita drink she likes. So she can do whiskey, but she doesn't like whiskey mixed drinks. But since Debbie likes black licorice, I thought I would have her try a Jägermeister and Red Bull. I never liked that drink because I don't like black licorice, but since Debbie does, she actually kind of likes it, but she does say it's too strong. On Wednesday, we went to Pipestone to visit Debbie's son and see his new apartment, which was really cool. On Thursday, we went to another local bar, which was about 15 minutes from our town, which was fun. And then we hung out some more at our local bar. On Friday, we went to Vermilion and Yankton. The coolest part of that day was going to the Yankton Dam. We could see so many huge fish. It was actually crazy and awesome. That was badass, seeing all those fish. On Saturday, we were supposed to go to Sioux City, but we were driving so much and were just too exhausted and needed a lazy day at home, which was nice and relaxing. I always love watching movies and our TV shows. On Sunday, we went to my buddy's wedding shower, and then Monday was our day at the lake Okoboji. It was a really fun week. The thing that made it so awesome was that Debbie and I get to so busy in our regular life, always filled with things we have to do, which includes work, shopping, laundry, housework, and just a lot of stuff that we don't get to have much fun time together and not stress about what's the next chore we have to do or having to get to bed early to go to work the next day. So it was really nice just being able to have a week off and spend quality and fun time with her. The honeymoon, even though it wasn't a big trip, was so awesome and very needed. Just like every vacation, it was much too short. So let's dig into our segment of What's New with Music? So there isn't too much to report on this month, but I did notice that a band that I really like called This Wildlife released a new album called Never Fade. It was actually released on June 23rd, which was our big day. There was one song that stuck out to me called No More Waiting, and it features Brian, who is the clean vocalist of the band called I Prevail. It's definitely a catchy emo song. I enjoyed it, and it was cool seeing Brian from I Prevail being a guest vocalist for them. The other thing I wanted to mention is that this month on June 19th, which is just a few days here from when I'm recording this, my buddy Taylor and I are going to an awesome metal show with Fit for a King, Motionless in White, and In This Moment. That's a huge metal show that's actually coming to Sioux Falls, which is awesome. I am so stoked that Fit for a King is actually coming to Sioux Falls, and I am excited to see Motionless in White as well. I won't get to stay for the whole show, but this is a great tour, and it's awesome seeing these metal bands touring in Sioux Falls. There is actually one tour I really wish I could go to, but it's not coming anywhere near us, which is really a bummer. Convictions is touring with Confessions of a Traitor. This will be the first time Confessions of a Traitor will be touring in America, and it would be such a sick tour. Of course, if you guys have followed this podcast before, you know I fucking love Convictions. And Confessions of a Traitor is awesome. I loved their new album, Punishing Myself Before God Does. But so hopefully this won't be the last time they tour together. So that's all I have for this episode of What's New with Music. Now I think it's time to dig into today's topic, which I titled Spiritual War. This message today is just a little heads up. Is I kind of dig more into theology than normal, and kind of get digging into some deeper topics. But I just want the broken worship community, and hope the reason you're here is to make this be a safe space and a place for you to be real and hopefully enjoy yourself, be encouraged. And I just, as I continue deeper on going on to this with this podcast, I do hopefully so you can learn more about Christianity and stuff, and in a safe place that's not inside a church setting, but hope to dig deeper into it. So yeah, I hope that this goes good. I hope you guys enjoy it. But so let's start with reading from the Bible in the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verses 10 through 20. I will give you guys a minute if you would like to follow along in your Bible. So again, this is Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 through 20. Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 through 20. I'll give you guys a minute if you would like to follow along. Okay, so we are in the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verses 10 through 20. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his power. Put on the whole armor of God, so that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For our struggle is not against enemies of blood and flesh, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, so that you may be able to withstand on that evil day, and having done everything, to stand firm. Stand therefore, and fasten the belt of truth around your waist, and put on the breastplate of righteousness. As shoes for your feet, put on whatever will make you ready to proclaim the gospel of peace. With all of these, take the shield of faith, which with which you will be able to quench all of the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. Pray in the Spirit at all times, in every prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert and always persevere in supplication for all the saints. Pray also for me, so that when I speak, a message may be given to me to make known with boldness the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains. Pray that I may declare it boldly as I must speak. Okay. When reflecting on this group of verses in Ephesians, it takes me back to living in a Christian home in the 90s. I used to love watching Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, Digimon, Beyblade, Yu-Gi-Oh!, as well as some of my favorite superheroes, Batman, Spider-Man, the Incredible Hulk, and many others. And as many of you might know, the Christian culture tried to keep up with the mainstream and of course missed the mark with their Christian superhero called Bible Man. The introduction of this show was Bible Man's origin story. And then after he transformed to Bible Man, putting on the full armor of God. It really encompassed 90s cartoon cheese. It makes me laugh in hindsight, remembering how corny Bible Man was. Going back to Ephesians chapter 6, 10 through 20, the thing that sticks out to me the most is, and what I think is the most important part of these verses, is verse 12, which reads, "For our struggle is not against enemies of blood and flesh, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." Every time I turn on the news, especially the world news, it feels like the world has lost all hope. Violence, hate, war, division, racial injustice, natural disasters, and the political system. Everything is so heartbreaking. It feels like there is no love, no unity, no peace. At times, it's very easy to ask the question, how could a good God let any of this happen? Everyone wants to point the blame, which only creates more hate in our hearts. It's easy to blame a distant, far-out God for the injustices in the world. It is also easy to blame a political party for the corruption of the nation. What I love and what I think is vitally important is that in these verses in Ephesians is telling us that the enemy isn't our fellow human beings. It isn't the people that we disagree with. We are all human, and we are not the enemy. We don't need to point fingers at people who share different beliefs than us. We need to realize that there is much more that is happening than we can see. There is a spiritual battle, and there is a spiritual enemy. There is a spiritual being that wants nothing more than to watch the world burn. An enemy that wants us to believe that God is the enemy. Even more than that, wants us to question the existence of God. I think this is a very important quote by, and I might mess up the pronunciation of this dude's name, but it's Charles Baudelaire, which the quote goes, "The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist." If there isn't a spiritual realm, our lives have no real meaning and our choices have no real consequences. I believe that everyone has an inherent sense of what's right and wrong, and what is fair and what is not. That inherent sense makes us upset when we see injustice. If there is no spiritual realm, if there is no right or wrong, why be upset with injustice of others? And why don't you just worry about your life and your loved ones? Why can't you hate someone who has hurt you or your loved ones because they are affecting the only life you have? In the circumstances of your life, there is no purpose for that person other than that person has harmed you. And I believe that is a dangerous mindset to have. I believe true love and true peace is found in the God that created us. The God that has a plan and a purpose for our lives. There is an enemy that wants nothing more than to steal, kill, and destroy, but masks his agenda by creating doubts. In the creation story with Adam and Eve, God gave them paradise, but gave them one rule to live by, to not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The adversary came as a serpent to Adam and Eve and created doubt in their minds, asking them, "Did God really say that you couldn't eat from this tree? Is he withholding this from you so that you can't be like God?" Adam and Eve gave in to this temptation, seeking to be as great as God. That is when sin and death entered the world. The adversary knew that no one could be as great as God, but he planted doubts and he intrigued Adam and Eve with the idea that they could be all powerful. They could be a God. What the devil did in that moment was destroying our perfect peace, paradise, joy, and God's desired plan for our lives by trying to make this life all about us. The devil corrupted an unfiltered relationship with our Creator. From the beginning, the devil wanted to see the world burn. He still tempts us today by alluring us with the riches and our wildest dreams. We can have the world, he says. We can be our own gods. Meanwhile, chasing after a life of our own desires leads us from the perfect will of God. The God who loves us perfectly and has a plan and purpose in our lives. When sin entered the world, we lived in defiance of our perfect Creator. God is a loving and just God, and when we sin against Him, there is consequences. But God loved us so much that He gave us His one and only Son to be the ultimate sacrifice for our sins, and we can be restored in relationship with Him. Jesus showed us how to live a life of loving God and loving others. God is love, and there is no love in the absence of God. One thing that I want us as the broken worship community to remember is that everyone in the world is facing their own trials. Everyone is carrying their own weight, their own burdens, their own guilt. In this life, no journey is easy. And like I have said in my newest book, Saving Grace is Not About You Anymore, the weight we all carry is heavy. don't do the journey alone. When we see injustice, hate, division, brokenness, we have to remember that there is a spiritual battle that we do not see. Our enemy is not flesh and blood, but the spiritual evil that disguises itself, makes us question God, our worth, our purpose, and the love of God. I have been convicted lately that in my heart, as I spoke against the Christian culture, that I had hate in my heart for the church. It angers me to my core to see the hypocrisy and the judgment that comes from the church, which is the bride of Christ. I have to realize that the spiritual adversary has the ability to and does infiltrate the church, and that the church is not perfect, but is still Christ's bride. We are not at war with flesh and blood, but with the spiritual enemy. I'm gonna take a break from my script and say, so last night, me and Debbie, we stayed up really late. We got caught up in watching this televangelist, and so he comes off as like the smart guy singing about God and act like he's caring about people, and he reads his Bible, and it was super frustrating because what he was doing, as the more he got into his sermon, quote unquote, the more he was giving a business speech, and he gave 7 reasons, 7 things you need to do to have a fulfilled life. And he was saying all this stuff about, if you do these things, you're going to get financially blessed. And if God lies about being financially blessed, he doesn't want anything to do with God or heaven. And it's like, it was all bullshit. And I was floored with how evil this sermon was. When we follow God, we are perfectly loved, and we are saved by grace, and we aren't promised an easy life. All of Jesus's disciples, after Jesus died on the cross and born again, all of his disciples were martyred for following Jesus, for spreading Jesus' word. We aren't promised prosperity. We are perfectly loved, and we have the hope of salvation. But we aren't promised riches and all this shit. But I have to remember, I talked about in my book, and me and Debbie talked about this, there's still some, even in that evil of a twist in the Bible, there is some of the gospel that's being preached, and that's good. But you have to dig into the Bible yourself, and don't just take people's word for it. And we have to remember, we are not at war with flesh and blood, but with the spiritual enemy. As a Christian, we are to reflect the love of Christ and live in his truth. The armor of God is showing us that every day we need to stay grounded in our faith and be prepared for the spiritual enemy, whether that be an asshole in the streets, or someone that brutally murders someone, or that's being someone abusing the pulpit, so, standing in the pastor's position and spreading lies. You need to be grounded in your faith and grounded in the truth, and that there is a spiritual enemy. We aren't at war with flesh and blood. We are at war with the spiritual adversary. We need to be rooted in the truth of the gospel, pursue righteousness, protect ourselves from the adversary, and spread the love of Christ and the truth of the gospel into the world. We are to be bold in our faith and be prepared for the enemy. I know that this message might have felt different than other messages and may be filled with a little more theology than normal. I hope and pray that the Broken Worship community can be a place where people can come and not feel judged or condemned. I want people to feel like this is a safe space to be real, ask the big questions, and maybe learn more about God in a different way that isn't in a church setting. Most of all, I want the Broken Worship community to be a place where you feel loved and not judged. As I'm wrapping up this message, I want to end with these verses, John 3:16 through 17. For God so loved the world that he sent his one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in him may not perish, but have eternal life. Indeed, God did not send the Son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him. I want you to know that you are unconditionally and perfectly loved by God. And God sent his one and only Son, Jesus, to be the ultimate sacrifice for our sins so that we can spend eternity with him in paradise. God is not some distant and uncaring dictator ready to damn you any chance he gets. He loves you and he wants to do life with you and have a personal relationship. God created you and loves you more than you can ever know. I want you all to know, whether or not you have put your faith in God or not, if you have been hurt by religion and can't find yourself believing or trusting in God. If you are just curious, if you have experienced loss and are in deep-rooted pain, if you're angry at God, or if you are just wanting to be a part of this community, you are welcomed here and you are loved. If you have been hurt by religion or by a Christian, I am sorry. Christianity is full of imperfect humans and often misrepresents the love of God. I just hope and pray that you don't let the flaws of religion keep you from the perfect love of God. I want to thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Broken Worship Podcast. If you would like to help support Broken Worship, I would love it if you would check out the Broken Worship website, which is www.broken-worship.com. All 5 of my published books, as well as dope Broken Worship merch and some sick Broken Worship posters, are all available on the Broken Worship website. The link will be posted in the description below. Another easy way to support Broken Worship and to stay up to date with all things new for Broken Worship, please like, share, and subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify. All of this information will be provided in the description below. Thanks again for tuning into this episode of the Broken Worship Podcast. I am so humbled and blessed by all the support that I have received with Broken Worship. Next month in August is officially 1 year of my cleaning business, D to Z Cleaning, being in business, which is crazy. It's also crazy that my birthday is right around the corner, which is July 25th. If you would like to help celebrate my birthday, I would like nothing more than you consider checking out some dope broken worship merch and maybe getting yourself a new book. That would help make my birthday even more special. Thanks again, and I love you all. Be sure to let everyone you know what we do here in the broken worship community. Here in the broken worship community, we remember, even in our brokenness, we have a reason to worship. Thank you, and God bless. But I don't know where I'm going anymore. Won't you be my candle in the dark?